This meeting is being recorded.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to work with you on the school committee and school community and well-being committee. I think between all of our talents that we have here, we're going to be able to do some amazing things. Today, I want to actually just get started with the process of developing our work plan. Our focus areas are going to be school safety and mental health with Healthy Schools Facilities Network taking place simultaneously on the side. By the end of this session, I don't believe that we're going to have a full working plan. That's going to be done offline, but I think today is going to be a great opportunity for us to level set and introduce our possible directions. So once again, our goal is to have something to present out on the May 10th working session. But before we get started, I want to just share our agenda. I believe Darren is going to put it in the chat. And so we want to just discuss some overarching projects and actionable items. We want to discuss our work plan and timing of our milestones. And 3, we want to identify budget items, discuss cadence of our meetings. So we want to have this every month, every 2 months, et cetera, and identifying next steps. Earlier last week, Darren sent out a primer. I want us to actually take some time to read through that document. So I want us to take about 10 minutes to review the document. Darren, if you can add that in the chat as well. The goal of this document is to kind of help point us in the right direction, but while also ensuring that we aren't doing something that's already being done. Once again, if we're talking about school safety and mental health, there's a lot of people who are asking the SBOE to do a lot of work on this already. So we want to make sure that we are not duplicating some of the work that's already being done. So for the next 10 minutes, I want us to just make sure that we get an opportunity to read through that document, and then we'll reconvene and we'll start to talk about what are some projects that we could possibly sink our teeth into, while also discussing some of the work that's already being done and some of the recommendations that were put forth by the last group for this team. Okay.
Just give me a moment. Something is not working on the SharePoint version. I'm going to re-upload it and then share a link. So just it should be up in about 1 minute.
That's cool. So while we're waiting, I just want to remind everyone that when we talk about the projects, they're really 4 different things that we can do. One being research, another being advocacy, another building relationships with stakeholders, and the other being impacting policy. So as we start to think about what are those things that we really want to do, we have to start to look at those 4 options and saying how each one of those fits into those 4 options. So yes, right here, these are possible levers. So when we talk about research, we're looking at, do we want to do reports or surveys or memos? If we're talking about advocacy, we're looking at op-eds, letters, resolutions, events, panels, webinars, roundtables, and you guys are good readers, so I don't think I need to continue reading each one of these things for you. But I would love for us to actually just go through this document. And Darren, if you don't mind, for those people who are online, if you could scroll through this really slow so people who are online also get an opportunity to see what this is as well. Sure. And so I'm not going to voice over anything. I'm going to put myself on mute, and then we'll come back in about 10 minutes. Gonna allow a couple more minutes for us to continue to review.
We have about 5 more minutes, but does anybody have any questions so far? I know it's a lot to take in, and I think Brandon mentioned this meeting won't be the end all be all for this. And the document that I sent out has links to open these up. But I ended on this last page because it just really lays out past conversations that we've had. Some of the projects that were brought up in the past, but I'm gonna put another 5 minutes on the clock, but I just wanted to just check in with everyone.
I do have a few questions.
Sure.
Go ahead. So the 4 avenues of action,
Mm-hmm.
how does that shake out in terms of things that members are doing individually that this committee is doing, or that we're trying to get the board as a whole to do?
That's a great question. Brandon, do you want to take that, or I'm happy to?
Go for it.
Okay. So I'm maybe I could pull up a work plan from last year with the past members, but it would be something like we identify a project or something that we would want to work towards. So for example, get a better understanding of the coordination efforts of safety across the city. Like who is talking to who, what does that look like? Then you could start as members discussing, okay, how do we get that information? We could do a survey to get some of that information, like pull in some student voice, whatever that looks like. And then as you're thinking through that work, it could just end there and do a report, or you could use that report to write like a resolution or introduce legislation. But whatever that looks like, these are the things that the state board can do. So for example, what the state board can't do is write the policy, like write policies across DC. So this is more of what can we do and what it would be the end goal. Like why would we be doing this? The work plan would help us sort of organize out how long it would take, what would cost money, and so on and so forth.
Right. So whatever the goal is, we would just whatever made the most sense in terms of individual or committee, or if we wanted to aim for a resolution.
Exactly, you'd work backwards pretty much. We want this, how would we get that? And I understand some of the members are not here, so I think just brainstorming here and then offline continuing those conversations through email and the work plan. And then at the May 10th, all the members would share out what those offline conversations were. But in the work plan, you could kind of build out, okay, say working backwards, we're gonna start with a survey. Part of that would be building out the survey. Okay, so through May, we would build out the survey. July, we would send it out. But it would be like, the work plan would be all the steps that lead up to the survey, and then all the steps following the survey to get to where we want to be with that project.
Makes sense to me. Thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, that makes sense. I see how we'll just operationalize it as it makes sense based on the particular goal we have.
Mhm.
The other thing I wanted to ask about, so the who is moving along the work of the healthy schools facility networks? Like, we're not starting from scratch there, right?
That's a great question. No, Morelia, Ebony Rose, it's actually a number of folks across DC and with NASB. They're doing a lot of the work. They met yesterday and are starting to put together or form what will be eventually a scope of work for like particular buckets of work. So
But
they
we're
don't
on track.
have anything concrete
We're
yet, but
on
that's kind
schedule.
of running. It's running in the background. And or not in the background, it's part of this committee's work. And so updates from Morelia would go towards this committee. And also maybe making sure some of the other committees' work isn't duplicative of the Healthy School Facilities Network. Since they're focused on facilities, perhaps other work outside of that network would be just something like what does communication or collaboration or coordination look like? That's not really a facilities topic that the network is picking up. But that's ongoing, so I know Morelia is not here really to speak to that, but she'll be providing updates to the committee.
Cool. Well, I think at this time, we can start to start this ideation process and start to think about what are some projects we think we could sink our teeth into. And so while looking at the document, the primer that you have, and by thinking of other projects that may have been on your mind, I just want us to just start to think about what are some of the different topics that you think we could start to look into.
Well, I noticed that based on a past resolution, there's a expectation that there would be another panel on school safety before June of this year, I think.
Mhm.
So I don't know what the timing or the cadence is for, preparing for those panels. That seems like an interim thing to work towards that might, like as we figure out who to include on the panel, maybe think about other things we want to accomplish related to that.
Yeah,
Is it by June that we need to do that?
let's see.
It'd be
Lost it.
by June 2023,
Okay.
like the end of May, which is coming up.
Very soon. Very soon.
So it could probably be in the June meeting though, right?
I
Yeah,
don't see, yeah. It's possibly, yeah, for sure.
Do we have panels scheduled out to then or?
give me a moment. I believe we were supposed to have our Healthy Schools Facility Network panel. Or have a discussion at that meeting. But I believe that's been extended, so just let's see.
There's only two. I mean, we've got the one next week. And then there will be May and June, right?
Mhm.
I guess for all these topics, one thing that would be useful would be to kind of inventory what is going on now or already for us to take into consideration. So like proposed legislation related to these topics or I feel like there was supposed to be some kind of report related to mental health in schools. I'm not sure if that came out or not, or
Mhm.
um,
Are you talking about like with some of the past work or continuing some of the past work? Or the work that's actually not completed?
yeah. So both that and then like what's going on with other agencies or um, just so we're aware of the context that we're working in.
Yep. For me, I would also like, I think, taking a step back from the like more immediate, like, I think a long-term goal for me would be to, have some type of resolution as it relates to school safety, like with the, SRO / post SRO age. So looking into like different options, whether it's like safety advocates or different programming or initiatives that we could do in lieu of SROs post 2025.
Yeah, I'd be interested in that as well.
Cool.
Do you think that would start with research?
I think it does start with research. I think it starts with research. I think there, these panel discussions, I think there's a lot of steps that go into it to get to that final point. But definitely, I think it starts with research and even analyzing how it looks in other places as well. There are a couple school districts that are currently using it, safety advocates, but SROs and it's a hot topic, not just here in DC, it's all over with people saying either they want them or they don't want them. And us, doing surveys and things of that nature to ensure that we are representing each of our wards respectfully, while also providing alternatives as well as our point of view once we've gathered all the information.
I don't mean to interrupt, but we do not have any panels planned for the May 17th public meeting. So I believe that would be when we put together that panel. So perhaps that would be one of the projects to put up on the work plan, would be something like that.
Okay.
And I can add that on there.
I think also, I definitely, one of the things that, I think has been, we've discussed in the past is mental health, but also I think advocating for what, I guess basic tier one strategies could be to implement mental health supports for non-crisis response. I mean, non-crisis mental health for students. That's something that I also want to think about. But I'm trying to think through which one of these four avenues that would be in. And I'm looking at advocacy. Darren, I think there's something that you also mentioned about the coordination of stakeholders as it relates to student safety. So ensure coordination of stakeholders, safe passage, violence interrupters, safe streets, parents. There's so many different, organizations and entities that are at play. How do we ensure that we are going about this the best way to ensure that everyone's actually communicating with each other, so that our schools know what's going on, our violence interrupters know what's going on, our SROs for the schools that still have them know what's going on.
Did either of you catch, I think that Safe Passage is gonna move out of DME's office. Is that your impression, to move to Deputy Mayor for Public Safety? I think that might be the case.
I could check off the top of my head. I'm not sure. Brandon, do you know anything about that, or China?
I'm not sure.
I could make it a point as an action item just to look that up.
Yeah, just wanted to flag that might be like those relationships might be changing soon. So
Thanks.
hopefully in a more streamlined way.
Yeah. As I think about, with our other teammates that are going to join us eventually, I think maybe the best route would be to send out an email to everyone to get their input as well. Robert, I don't know if you have any more suggestions, or China, if you do as well. But if not, I think we can move on to the next topic and gather more information from the rest of our colleagues through email. What are your thoughts on that? Okay, sounds good.
That makes sense, because like how many, I don't want to bite off more than we can chew, so like what's a good number of like outcomes to work towards
Yeah, so Darren, can you share the work plan template that you have?
Yes, give me one moment, please.
One of the things that I like about it is it visually allows us to see what we have and what's due when. And so as we start to plan, I think we need to think about this. I think that, there's some things that are long-term projects, and I think that there's some things that are immediate. And me personally, if we're looking at health and mental health, as well as our student safety, I'm thinking, a couple of projects for each right now. And looking at the timeline for when we can believe that we'll actually be able to do something that's substantive with that.
And the plan that we're doing is for 1 year, or is it for 2?
Darren, you can, if you want to share on that part.
Absolutely. I set this up just to make it a little bit easier this year to identify both the calendar year. So up until December 2023, which is kind of easy to follow, but also these colors would note the break between one fiscal year and the other. So if we do have budgeted items, they would have to be spent. If it's a FY23 budgeted item, it would have to be spent by the end of September 2023. So when we're projecting out what each task is, the project can continue going on past the fiscal year into 2024, but any funds that are earmarked for fiscal year 23 would have to be spent by the end of September. That's kind of the general layout of this. So it has both the calendar year and fiscal year. And just a note, also, you'll see this lead here, like Brandon helping to lead the committee planning. Some of the projects will have a team lead, but that doesn't mean other members wouldn't be working on it. It would just identify who's the point of contact for that work. So Morelli is the point of contact for the Healthy Schools work, and they're still working on these items as well.
I would love to at least get through the year, and then start to think about what next year also looks like. But at least get through the year.
Yes. And I think so next year I believe that I could be wrong, but we would then circle back, reflect on this, and then work on next year's, the 2024 work plan, and sort of reflect back on this.
Yeah. So like as I start to think through, like, some of the things that Robert brought up are things that we could possibly get done within the year. So I like, I like that idea as we start to think through what we could accomplish within this school year, as we think about like the panels and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And through this work, it could possibly identify work for the following year, like what you find out from research or outreach, then come back to the work plan and then build out maybe a phase 2 of a project.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah, I'm hoping that Carlene can pick up the work that she led on the
Sexual assault.
sexual assault, to kind of see where she wants to take that in terms of next steps.
Yeah, definitely interested in supporting that.
And just to show you last year's, just what these look like. So this is like a 2021, I believe it was just, what was this? Yeah, like all of these were 2021, and then moving down is 2022. So we could also build on top of the work from the previous year and continue work plans with this with this board. But the main thing is being able to compare across this committee and the other committee, what's the overlap, and just member capacity and staff capacity. I think that this will be really helpful, as well as identifying what certain things will cost. Again, that most of that discussion would be offline. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. But again, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it for how we handle the work plans.
Thank you for sharing your screen. I want to continue to move down the line. Once again, realizing that, you know, a good amount of this is going to have to be through email, us connecting, and then sharing out, you know, what it is that we ultimately are going with. But I want to start to think about we're not going to be able to discuss budget items right now. So I want to just move on to the overarching cadence of our meetings, whether or not we believe that we want to have it every month or every 2 months. Seeing as though, well, I'll just leave it at that right now. Like, what's our cadence? Do we want it every month? Do we want it more? Do we want it less? Darren, do we have the ability to make this a little more flexible? Or do we have to stick to that one cadence? And what I mean by that is saying as though that, let's say if we do some of the topics that are more immediate, like do we say, well, we're meeting monthly and then maybe down the line it's every other month, or I'm just asking what our range is in this topic.
One thing to note is, say you do meetings every 2 months, you could still have an emergency meeting just whenever, but it would have to be publicly noticed in advance, a few days in advance of the meeting. And so once that's notified, having an agenda for that and publicly noticing it, just like any other meeting with the state board.
Cool. Robert, China, would love to get your input. Once again, obviously, we're not going to come to a conclusion on it right now, but would love to know your thought process as we're thinking through this.
My first thought is every month, but this is new to me, so I don't know, you know, if I would continue to feel that way, you know, as we go on. I think as long as we're moving things forward, it can be helpful for me to like have that, you know, rhythm of, you know, we're going to come back together each month.
Cool.
So a slight preference for that, I guess.
Well, I also moved to China also. I'll share my thoughts afterwards as well. Or I can share them now. I'll go ahead and share them now. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. I think that monthly makes sense as long as we are productive. I also wanted to talk about the time, like the day and time that works for you all. I know for me, I've already told most of my my friends, my family, hey, Wednesdays are out, and so I don't know if it makes sense to do it on a Wednesday that we don't have a meeting, or if it makes sense to try to do another day that works best. For me personally, I'm extremely flexible, but it's just Wednesdays. I've already told people that's my state board day.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I mean, I can be pretty flexible generally, but that does make sense. Do you think like we would do them virtually?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I mean, that's my preference. I don't know what your preference
That is
is.
very, that is very helpful. That like multiplies the time by taking out the commute.
Yeah, I mean, we could just hop on the green line right behind you and sorry. No, I just like that. It's really cool. But yeah, no, so that works for me. I think once again, nothing set in stone. We will connect with everybody on the team. We'll also think about time. For me, knowing that these meetings can, sometimes run a little long. I try to keep it to as close to like 6 or 6:30 as possible. If I also want to make sure I give people time for travel. I know that was kind of an issue today. My thoughts are generally around 6:30, but I'm extremely flexible. I prefer not to do anything before 5 if possible, but once again, I'm flexible. As long as I know in advance, I can really tweak my calendar. Cool. And
Yeah,
so I
think, sorry, I was gonna say, I think like 6:30 would be kind of the earliest for me, probably.
okay. All right. And if we need to move that, once again, I'm extremely flexible around everyone else's schedule. So and I guess the next thing is like next steps. And I think for next steps, I think we need to. Oh, it's totally fine, China. China says sorry in a loud place right now. Don't worry about it. It's okay. I think next steps, Darren, I think the two of us can connect and we can share out our notes. I know Darren has some notes, I have some notes, and we can share out with the group along with some questions for the group that can help us land in a space where we can present out. Once we gather the information and we figure out what we want to present out, I will then connect with you all before I present out in the working meeting, just to make sure that we're all still aligned. Once again, this will probably be via email. And so please just look for an email. I'll CC everybody on that email and we can go from there. Darren, did you have any additional information that you wanted to share?
I'm also going to confirm the DME's role with safe passage. I'm going to share out, you and I will connect, but just making sure to share out not just a Wednesday, but what day of the month or what week of the month is it going to be. I know the first and third Wednesdays are typically working session public meetings, so it would have to be second, fourth. So that gives options for members. So just having something ready to go, but it is, just to note, it's helpful for the public too. On our website, we're going to start putting together the School Community and Wellness Committee webpage with more information as we go along. But one of the things is, who are the members and what days do they meet? So fleshing that out. I don't really have any other items. But I do, actually, let me ask you this. Do either of you use Asana? Is it helpful if I put Asana tasks for this committee, just to keep us, like, better keep track of these tasks?
I use Asana. I love it.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Maybe I can connect, maybe one of these meetings I can, but it is helpful. In the past, we've used it with committees or with meetings, just to help members keep track of things. So if it's helpful for y'all, I'm happy to use that as well to keep track of the tasks. But I don't have anything else on here like that I see from my meetings from this meeting. So
Are these meetings, like, are they broadcast live or are they just recorded and then shared later?
it's recorded.
Okay.
What we do is we'll share the Zoom link. So if somebody from these are open to the public. So instead of sitting
Okay.
physically in the room, they could join the webinar. They just have to
Got it.
I just wouldn't let them in as a
A
panel
panelist.
talk.
Got it.
But we do, with this recording, it will go up on YouTube. So that, great question. Yeah, this is all made public.
All right, well, I think that we have established what our next steps are. Thank you all for your time. And I look forward to what we're gonna be able to accomplish together. Take care.
Thanks,
Sounds
everyone.
great. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Darren. Bye, China.